This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.
Welcome back. While in Grand Bahama attending local government elections, Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Public Service Fred Mitchell slammed commercial banks regarding the level of service provided to citizens. We hear more from Minister Mitchell in this report from Dorino Saunders.
Last week, while Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness was in the Bahamas, Fred Mitchell, PLP Chairman and Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Public Service, who himself has been critical of local banks, echoed the sentiments of Jamaican Minister of Finance Nigel Clark, who scolded banks in Jamaica for the unfair treatment of citizens. According to Mr. Mitchell, there are other Caribbean leaders who have been rightfully critical of recent actions and unilateral decisions by banks that adversely impact customers. He says the PLP government is willing to work with the opposition to bring banking relief to residents here in the Bahamas.
Mr. Holness arrived on a date when the Jamaican Minister of Finance was denouncing the way the banks treat Jamaicans in their country. There was a similar complaint made by Mia Mottley, Prime Minister of Barbados, about the way banks treat Barbadians. And of course, it is the same here in the Bahamas. I've been making those complaints as well. On Wednesday last, the leader of the opposition asked whether it was possible for us to take a bipartisan approach to dealing with this matter of the banks in the Bahamas. The short answer is yes, but the devil will always be in the details.
Mr. Mitchell also revealed that Prime Minister Davis has already begun a process that would hopefully result in a better, more fair banking experiences for Bahamian residents.
Prime Minister Philip Davis told me yesterday that last week he had a meeting with the heads of the clearinghouse banks in the Bahamas to make the government's position clear. The banks must take some action to relieve the cost and indignities of doing business in our country. Otherwise, the government may be forced to take legislative measures to stop it.
Holding nothing back, Mr. Mitchell placed much of the blame for what banks have been allowed to do squarely on the shoulders of the Central Bank of the Bahamas.
I believe a great part of the problem, of course, is the Central Bank of the Bahamas, which has allowed the banks to get away with the diminution of services without any compensating measures to assist consumers. They abolished the penny, for example, which was almost certainly a contributing factor to inflation in this country. The latest bright idea of the central bank is to abolish checks, and the central bank itself had one of its officials attack consumers instead of protecting consumers in a public forum. One thing for certain, though, is the PLP cannot be seen to be flaccid and impotent in the face of all of this.
In October of 2021, a speech by Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley went viral on social media after she criticized commercial banks for watching people's money instead of putting it to work. She warned that if banks were not prepared to make some changes, the government would be forced to do so through legislation. And it appears that the government of the Bahamas is prepared to take the same approach. Dorino Saunders, JCN News.
Governor of the Central Bank John Roll warning the general public of the adverse effects increased inflation could have on the Bahamian economy. This much coming out of the quarterly economic briefing. Governor Roll says there are downside risks in the economic outlook, which requires vigilance.
One of these is increased inflation, which, although not an outsized concern, could boost the import bill and consume a greater share of foreign exchange earnings. While pent-up demand for vacations is still a strong component in tourism recovery, the United States Central Bank's response to raise interest rates to fight off inflation could erode some of this momentum. It could also frustrate the Bahamian fiscal consolidation efforts by increasing costs on new or refinanced foreign currency debt. That said, the opportunity remains there for other reforms to strengthen the Bahamian sovereign risk assessments and tackle existing interest rate spreads on foreign currency debt.
Governor Roll also notes that COVID-19 is still an uncertainty, both in terms of uneven access to vaccines at the international level and domestic factors that also weigh on the travel sector assessment of the safety of vacationing in the Bahamas. He also touched on rising interest rates in the United States of America, which could affect borrowing.
The Bahamas and emerging market countries on the whole that borrow in U.S. dollars through the U.S. credit markets, as interest rates in the U.S. begin to increase, that's going to also pass through and put pressure on their cost of borrowing in U.S. dollars. And so it's anticipated that it could have some impact on the cost of borrowing for the Bahamas, because that would involve costs associated with new financing or the need to refinance any debt.
Governor Roll assures that where necessary, the central bank remains well positioned to respond to shore up the adequacy of foreign reserves and support for the Bahamian dollar fixed exchange rate. Similar to issues of low water pressure faced by residents in eastern New Providence, for years residents in the Yellow Elder No. 3 community, specifically Malvern Road, have also been experiencing low water pressure that has led to a level of frustration. But now residents can breathe a sigh of relief to know that Member of Parliament for the area, Mikkel Bonnaby, with the help of the Water and Sewage Corporation, recently addressed this vexing problem. Malvern Road residents, who say they are happy for the repairs, also share some of the frustrating experiences they have had to deal with over the years.
As you go to use the bathroom, the water pressure is so low that they need to address this as quick as possible. It's been an issue for years. Now Mr. Bonnaby come to address the issue and make sure things go as planned.
I'm a resident. I live right over across the street there. Right now I got trouble getting water for shower.
Mr. Bonnaby, who was also chairman of the Bahamas Parks and Beaches Authority, was grateful to the team from Water and Sewage for carrying out the repairs in a timely manner.
Good morning, Dave. We are in Yellow Elder this morning. The residents have been dealing with low water pressure in this part of Yellow Elder. This is Malvern Road, right next to Brown Road as well. It's been rusty water, low water pressure. They've been dealing with this for the last several decades, and so we want to try to address this for them. It's not just me, it's also the workers of water and sewage. We couldn't get it done without their expertise, and we rely heavily on their work that they're doing in the community along with us, and so we're very grateful for their work this morning as well.
Deputy General Manager at Water and Sewage, Cyprian Gibson, was also on the ground for the repair project in the Yellow Elder community. 175 young Bahamians have been recruited to join the Bahamas Department of Immigration, the largest group recruited in the department's history. The group, a combination of both males and females, gathered on the Easter Parade grounds and wailed to the Department of Immigration on Hawkins Hill on Monday to officially begin their training. On hand to welcome and greet the new recruits was Minister of Labor and Immigration Keith Bell, who conducted the ceremonial inspection. Also in attendance were Immigration Director Katura Ferguson and Assistant Director Rudolph Ferguson. New COVID-19 infections in the Bahamas continuing a downward trajectory. The Ministry of Health and Wellness confirming 50 COVID cases on Sunday, January 30th. 39 cases on New Providence, 6 on Andros, 3 on Exuma, and 1 case each on Grand Bahama and Eleuthera. 24 of those newly infected are males and 26 are females. Active cases in country now at 7,169. Hospitalizations are also decreasing. 102 people are now in hospital, down from 118 on Saturday. 97 patients are moderately ill, 5 in the intensive care unit. Health officials reporting that 2 additional deaths have been added to the deaths under investigation. That now tallies at 46. The death toll remains at 746. 13 people recovered from the virus on Sunday. Total recoveries now at 24,435. There are now 32,562 total confirmed cases in the Bahamas. Well, that does it for news this evening. Once again, I'm Tyler Simonet, and from all of us here at JCN News, have a wonderful evening, everyone.
This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.